out of lesson 4, and we're going to be working through to solve literal equations. Literal equations are an equation that has two or more variables. To rewrite a literal equation, you're going to solve for one of the variables in terms of the other. It's much easier for us to go through and actually practice these in order for you to understand. So the first step that we're going to do in solving an equation such as 2y plus 5x equals 6, they've asked us to solve for y. So I've changed the color just to make it a little bit easier for us. We're going to go through and actually solve for y. So our first step that we're going to do is we are going to write out the equation on our board. So I went ahead and wrote it separate so that we aren't fumbling through the 4y in there. And then our next step is we're going to remove the x's by shifting it to the opposite side. So we want to get the x's. In this case, we only have one, but we want to work to get it out of the left side of the equation. So right now, we want to isolate this for now. So we have to get rid of anything that is on the same side of the equal sign as that 2y. So right now, I'm seeing a plus 5x. So we're going to do the opposite. So right now, it's plus 5. We're going to go ahead and go minus 5. Okay, whatever we do to one side, we do to the other. Okay, and we're taking that x with it. That's why we're doing the opposite of the plus minus. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and rewrite my equation so that you can see what is simplified. So we have 2y. This is canceled out. I just forgot to cross it out. Equals 6 minus 5x. Okay, now don't get confused that right now we're working with two variables because they're really asking us just to solve for one. Okay, and this is just working on isolating. Eventually we will be working where we will solve for both x and y, and we'll learn how to solve and then substitute in. But for right now, we're just going to solve until it says y equals. We aren't going to actually get a single digit answer. Okay, our next step is we're going to isolate y by doing our division. So just like we've done in the past, we now want to work to get this y by itself. So in order to do that, we have to remove that 2. So right now it's 2 times y. So we're separating it from the y. That means we're going to divide it away from y. So divide by 2. Now, here's the part that's a little bit different. You guys are just used to going over and there's one number on the right-hand side. Well, now we've got 2. So we're going to have to go through and we're going to have to divide each of these by 2. Now, I know if you look in the book, they would have it actually look like this. Instead of having them individually, they would write it out like this. That's a simpler way of writing it, but ultimately they're going to ask us to reduce where we can. So that's why I choose to write it like this, so that it's just visually easier for me to see that, oh, I could reduce this down to a whole number. And this I can either leave as an improper fraction or I can change it to a decimal. So now my final answer is going to be y equals, I can reduce this down. 6 divided by 2 would give me 3 minus, and I can either choose to write this in its decimal form or I can leave it as 5 over 2. So it would either be 2.5x, or I could have also written this as 3 minus 5 over 2x. Either of those answers are correct, and I would accept either. So you have to be comfortable interchanging between those, because if it comes to a standardized test, you just have to be comfortable interchanging between fraction versus decimal. I will accept either, okay? So your first step is you're going to want to write out your equation. That's going to be step 1. Make sure that you get it transferred correctly. Second step, you're going to remove any variable. Now, in this case, it was x's because they were asking us to solve for y. It's not always going to be that we leave for y. So that's where you have to read through your directions. Here they said to solve for y. So we wanted to isolate y. So in this case, we removed any of the x's. Okay, so then we shifted those to the other side by doing the opposite. And then we worked to isolate the variable. So we worked to get y isolated by doing that division aspect. Okay.